It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's holiday time. I don't know what holidays or holidays you celebrate, but whatever they are, I hope they're magnificent and you enjoy them. You stay happy, healthy, and whole. I don't know why, but like I said, for some reason, I've really been in this very nostalgic kind of meaning. Well, I mean, I'm always in the meaning mood, but very tradition sort of family generated things, probably because it's getting close to the holidays. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about traditions and family traditions and what those look like, what I think is important about them, and how to make the most out of your family's traditions. When I was a kid, we had some really cool ones that were very interesting. You know, my mom always made birthday cakes for my sister and I, handmade with all the frosting and stuff. When we were little, when we had Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner, we would sometimes do a show or sing a song before we ate or open presents. There was generally a lot of like sit down formality to our meals with my some of my extended family. We had these things that went on for a very long time, and I think what happens for most families is that children get older, and then at some point some of those things start to shift, and then they have to shift even more. Children move out of the house, children get married, they have their own children, they have to start this new cycle with themselves. And I always felt a lot of pressure, go figure, I always felt a lot of pressure to try to maintain the things and the traditions that I had had when I was a child with my own children. And for whatever reason, a combination of a lot of things, moving across the country, not being my mom, like I'm just not my mother, you know, having family that was spread apart, and then eventually a divorce, and then a blended family, though some of those traditions just became impossible to maintain. Not to mention my own not separation, but growing up from the family. My sister also has her own family. My cousins also have their own family. We all live all over the place. And so it makes the way that I had done things when I was a kid just not possible in the same way anymore. And I always felt a lot of guilt about that. In particular, when my daughter started asking for things, asking for tradition, asking for, you know, family tradition, and really feeling like I wasn't able to give that to her in a very big way. It created a lot of stress for me and a lot of anxiety. And I've been able to manage my way out of that by really taking a step back and considering what it is that tradition really gives us, why it's important, and what are the critical components of creating tradition, and what pieces to hold on to and what pieces to let go of. So let's talk about those things. There's 5 of them that I want to discuss. So let's start with those 5. The first really important thing with traditions is the fact that having them is what gives us a feeling of purpose and meaning. That was something that I missed early on when I was a young mother. I didn't recognize that the reason that we do some things in a special way is because when we make something special, we feel more purpose and meaning surrounding what it is that we're doing. It's the difference between hitting the grind every day and doing the same thing over and over and over again, which this year might have been a little bit for you, and creating some excitement and some energy and some novelty around something that you don't do every day. And so that not doing something every day, it becomes exciting. When you do the same special thing over the course of a period of time, it creates a sense of meaning and purpose within your life. It's important that we maintain that. Creating that meaning and that purpose is critical in order for any tradition to actually be of value to us. And that's really the second point with traditions in general, is just making sure that there is meaning and purpose in it. You know, if you're celebrating Christmas this time of year, Merry Christmas, but there's got to be a reason for sitting down around the tree and opening the gifts. Or maybe you do stockings. What are the stockings about? The more you can remember what those meanings are, whatever they are for your family, the more special opening those gifts are, or the dinner is, or the caroling, or the special fudge that gets made by somebody. You know, those pieces are important because the meaning and the purpose is built into it. It's talked about, it's expressed, it's shared, it transcends generations, and it's what makes the tradition so powerfully important. That goes hand in hand with actually being on purpose in doing the tradition. You know, I don't know what your traditions are, but I know that at some point, and for myself, I was doing something that I had always done and realized that I was getting no meaning out of it anymore. I was no longer able to draw the purpose out of it. For example, you know, maybe Sunday night service, Christmas Eve service is just not doing it for you anymore. I mean, maybe you've heard the service 300 times and it's always really great, and slowly it starts to become less and less motivating for you, less and less powerful for you. That's something that I think a lot of people experience, and it makes them feel hopeless and sad and maybe even a little resentful and cynical about things. And I want to encourage you to not do that, because this is the first piece of knowing what to let go of in tradition and what to hold on to, and maybe what to recreate for yourself. Depending on your experience and your life experiences, what matters to you shifts over the course of your life. And so if you're going to Sunday service or you singing carols and it no longer has the same meaning for you anymore, it's time to evaluate and consider whether or not there's something for you to move on from or let go of, or if there's something for you to reinvent for yourself so that that meaning comes back. Because the meaning is ultimately what's important. Having that purpose is ultimately what's important. And it's okay for things to need to shift. Now, the other reason that I bring that up is because sometimes we try so hard to hold on to the things that are really important to us that we equally miss the meaning in it. For example, like I said earlier, my mom used to make our birthday cakes, and she made our birthday cakes every year, and this was an all-night event. My mom's not a baker, but she'd buy the shaped pans, she'd use the, you know, tipped frosting makers and create these beautiful cakes for my sister and I. And when I had children, I had to do that. Like, I couldn't not do that. Except for, again, I'm not my mom. And so I was creating this thing where I was just making myself feel so awful with how much I didn't enjoy making the cakes, or how poorly I thought the cakes turned out, and I was always comparing my cakes to my mother's cakes, and eventually feeling like making the cake wasn't worth the time that was taking for me to actually get it done, and I wasn't getting the meaning out of it that I had when I was a child. And when I recognized that that was sort of bleeding into my own kids, I decided that it was time to maybe consider doing birthdays a little bit differently and letting that tradition go. Now, that was a hard thing for me to do, but it's important for us to make those decisions so that we can build the life for us that works the best and ultimately gives us the most of what we need. That leads me right into point number 4, right? It doesn't really matter what you're doing. It only matters the meaning that you're putting into it. So there are other things that we have built traditions on in the family that we never did when I was a kid. And the reason that we do them is because we need tradition, and that's important, but the traditions that I had as a child either weren't possible or were not creating the same meaning in the doing of the items. So for example, one of the traditions that we have in our family is every Christmas we have the children get a Christmas ornament, and it's a little thing, and it's generally around something that was of value to them over the years. So one year when my daughter was really into American Girls, she got an American Girls Christmas ornament, and you know, my stepson, he really loves Marvel and the comic books, and so some of his Christmas ornaments are Spider-Man and Captain America, depending on who his favorite character is that particular year. The same thing for my son and my stepdaughter, and so that's a tradition that we have built over the course of every Christmas that they've been alive. And what that gives me is an experience of being able to share ornaments with them when they leave the house. That's the point. You're going to collect these Christmas tree ornaments, and then when you move out and you go to put up your very first Christmas tree, you have some ornaments that are yours, that mean something to you, for you to decorate your first Christmas tree with. Because I had to buy all of my ornaments, my first Christmas, and it was hard, and it was, sad because I missed the ornaments for my tree. And so it was a new tradition that I started, and it took the place of like singing Christmas carols before we opened gifts. And those shifts are important to make, because it's not about what you're doing, it's about why you're doing it. That's what matters. And the reason that that's what matters is because the purpose of all of this is to create memories, to have shared experiences with your family. It's about building something in your lives that has a fondness to it, a purpose in it. And I think we get caught up in the idea that sometimes these traditions need to be really big or super involved, and they don't. Just the other day I was thinking that one of the traditions that we have in our family is actually at the airport. There's a Popeyes chicken in our airport, and when we go there, we usually buy Popeyes. And I recognize that that's kind of become a tradition, a special one, because everybody likes it. It's good stuff. It's not something that we get very often, because it's certainly not the most healthy thing to eat. But it makes that trip to the airport, when we get that, it's like, this is what we do when we go to the airport. And that's what the sense of the tradition is. And the meaning and purpose behind that is the uniqueness of being able to have a meal that we don't normally have. It's kind of a little extravagant gift, something extra that you do for yourself. And I think that spreading those things out is important, and having times when those things occur is what creates the tradition for happening. And the meaning and the purpose is built in by the quality time that we get to spend with each other in doing that. And it represents this fondness of memory, which is the whole point of what that's about, for us to share and reflect on and think about as we grow older and have our own families. That's the whole point. Now, a couple of things that I want to say about this in Bliss. First, the 5 things. Okay, so we have to create traditions that because we need meaning and purpose in our lives, and the tradition is what gives us that meaning and purpose. And so by default, that means that there has to be meaning in what we're doing. That's so important. You need to be mindful about that meaning, because if you don't, that's when stuff starts to become not as important to you, and the magic sort of goes away from it. And then you need to decide how you're going to shift, because without reflection, then there is no specialness. And if there's no specialness, then it can't become a tradition. And if there's no tradition, then you don't get that meaning and purpose into your life. So those are the 3. Number 4 is that because of that, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It only matters what you're getting out of it, the why behind what you're doing, and what you get out of whatever it is that you decide to do. That's what matters, not what. And then that last piece is the reason for all of this is because it creates those memories. It creates those shared experiences with our families. Those are the 5 points about tradition that are important to keep in mind, and why they're valuable, and how to make them work for you. Now, like I said, a couple of things here. So I don't know if you've ever heard the story about the little girl who asks her mom why she cuts the ends off of the ham, right? Okay, so how it goes is the little girl, she watches her mom cook the ham for Christmas dinner, or maybe it's Easter family meal, and she cuts the ends off the ham, she puts it in the pan, she puts the pan in the oven, and it cooks. And the daughter asks her mom, why do you cut the ends off the ham? Mom says, well, I do because my mom did. So then the little girl asks her grandma, Grandma, why do you cut the ends off of the ham? Well, I did because my mom did. So then the little girl goes to her great-grandmother, and she said, Great-grandma, why do you cut the ends off of the ham? And great-grandma says, well, my oven was too small to fit a whole ham in, so I had to cut the ends off of it so that it would fit. They had started this tradition without understanding that meaning and purpose. And potentially maybe that wasn't the best tradition to have. If you're not going to make value judgments on things, but Maybe you're wasting a little bit of ham that you don't need to waste because you're not understanding why something was getting done. That story is really the main point of what I want to make in terms of how to make sure that your traditions, whatever they are working for you. It's that meaning and purpose piece is everything. And I talk a little bit more about this on my blog, but finding that meaning and doing those things mindfully and with intention is what makes the tradition have that special meaning and purpose in it. You know, the other thing that I want to say about this, and this just came to me the other day, is that I've often read some memes where it's like, you know, every day is special, get out the good china, pull out the silverware, wear the beautiful dress and all of that. And I'm not going to debate the validity of that with anyone, but I want to just throw out there for everyone to think about. If you do something every day, then the novelty and specialness of whatever it is that you're doing wears off. It's called the law of familiarity. We get used to it, and so it's no longer interesting. It's no longer engaging in the same way. It no longer holds the same value to us as it did before. That's why some of these holiday traditions in particular are so important, because we don't do them all of the time. You know, what you do for Easter or Eid or Christmas or Hanukkah or birthdays or the 4th of July or whatever, you know, what Boxing Day, whatever it is that's your day, right? Whatever it is that you do on those special occasions, it's special because you don't do it every day. And if we do too much of the special things every day, then pretty soon those things aren't special anymore. And for a tradition to really have meaning and have purpose, it needs to be special. It needs to be something that's sparse, sporadic, happens on occasion. If you have the most delicious meal that you can have every day of your life, pretty soon the food doesn't taste the same anymore. So just something for you guys to keep in mind with this. I know that, and I've been talking about it a lot, but you know, there's no reason for us to feel guilty when we need to shift our lives because it isn't what it was when we were young. It's okay for things to change. Life is a dynamic experience. It's going to change. It's supposed to change. Embrace the change. Find ways to make the differences work for you, work for your family, work for your kids, work for your partner, work for whoever. Don't hold on so tightly to tradition that you can't, that you stifle any meaning out of it, because then the tradition just dries up and is stale and is no longer of any value to anyone. And you're just cutting the ends off of the ham for no reason at all. So that's a little bit about what I wanted to talk about today. Like I said, go check out my blog. I talk a little bit more about it there. Always follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I am there. And I would really like to know what your traditions are. What are some things that you do? How have you struggled with this in the past? Do you struggle with it? Is it something that you even think about? I like the dialogue with people, so please leave a comment. Like and share, subscribe. And until next time, guys, remember every day, consider your life and be on purpose. Bye.